Our first story tonight comes from a young man who was working for DoorDash a couple of summers ago. He found it to be a pretty simple way to make money, far better than his previous minimum wage job at a gas station. He often enjoyed the work, especially when his girlfriend came along, turning deliveries into a road trip with a good soundtrack. On a typical evening, he could clear over $100 in just a few hours. The night this incident occurred, however, he was driving alone. He preferred working after dark, as that's when his small town of only a few thousand people got busiest. He'd usually start in the late afternoon and go until well past 11 at night. This particular order was from McDonald's, which he usually liked because they were fast. He could get in and out without much of a wait, unlike other fast food places. This time, though, the delivery destination was unusually far, a drive of more than 12 miles into the countryside. But the payout was over $10, so he decided it was worth the trip. As he drove, the familiar town roads gave way to darker, more isolated back roads. A sense of unease started to creep in as his GPS led him to a house that seemed to be in the middle of nowhere. The area was vaguely familiar, not too far from his mother's home, but this specific property was one he had never noticed before. The house itself was a source of immediate dread. It was a large two-story structure that must have been grand at one time, but now it looked derelict and unsettling. It stood on a dark corner, with no street lights to illuminate the overgrown yard and peeling paint. The entire property was shrouded in an oppressive darkness, with not a single light on inside. A powerful sense of anxiety washed over him. The atmosphere was so thick with a negative energy that he had to pause in his car and take several deep breaths just to steady his nerves. It felt like the kind of place you hear about in ghost stories, a place where something terrible had happened. It was a primal fear, a feeling of being watched by something unseen. He finally got out and walked up the long, cracked driveway. The app instructions said, "Hand a customer," meaning he couldn't just leave the food at the door. He had to wait for someone to answer. He took a deep breath and knocked on the heavy wooden door, the sound echoing in the silent night. He waited for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 30 seconds. Just as he was about to raise his hand to knock again, a horrific scream erupted from inside the house. It was a piercing, unnatural sound that physically jolted him backward, making him stumble on the steps. Pure terror took over. He dropped the bag of food without a second thought and sprinted back towards his car, which was parked at the edge of the property by the road. The whole time he was running, that blood-curdling scream continued, a wretched demonic shriek that no human throat could produce. His hands were shaking so violently that he fumbled with his keys, struggling to get the car started. He felt a wave of panic, his heart pounding in his chest. Just as the engine finally turned over, the screaming abruptly stopped, plunging the area back into an even more terrifying silence. As he sped away, he risked one last glance in his rearview mirror. In the upstairs window of the house, he saw it. A tall, gaunt black silhouette stood there, its face a void of darkness, except for two enormous, wide-open white eyes staring directly at him. He knew, with absolute certainty, that it was not a person. He never told his family or friends about what he saw that night, fearing they would think he was losing his mind, but the curiosity was overwhelming. The next day, he took a short detour on his way to his mother's house and drove by the property in the safety of daylight. The bag of McDonald's he had dropped was still there, its contents scattered across the porch and steps. No one had come out to get it. No one had cleaned it up. It confirmed his deepest fear. It wasn't a prank, it was a lure. Someone or something had spent money on a delivery with the sole intention of drawing him to that horrifying place. What its ultimate goal was, he'll never know, and he's grateful for that. So that chilling encounter was enough to make anyone quit, but for many, these delivery gigs are a necessity. Our next story shows how a different kind of danger can hide behind a friendly face, as a driver for Uber Eats discovered one fateful night. This story begins with a bit of recent news. A wealthy older man in town had recently been found dead in his home from an apparent heart attack. This man had been the subject of dark rumors for years, with allegations of kidnapping, assault, and even murder tied to his name, including whispers about what he did to his own wife. Many believed his wealth had protected him from justice. For the driver who tells this story, the news of his death brought a terrifying memory flooding back. The night it happened, the driver, we'll call him Jacob, was about to end his shift. He had already completed 15 deliveries and was ready to go home. Then an order popped up with a $12 payout, much higher than usual. Tempted by the extra cash, he accepted it, even though he disliked making deliveries alone at night. The address led him to a stunningly beautiful house in an affluent neighborhood. It was practically a mansion with manicured lawns and impressive architecture. Jacob, who came from a modest background, was in awe of the obvious wealth on display. He knocked on the door and was greeted by a kind-looking older gentleman. "Hey there, son. Thanks for bringing my food," the man said with a warm smile. "I know it can be a tough job. Here, I want you to have this." He pressed a crisp $100 bill into Jacob's hand. Jacob was shocked and thanked him profusely. "No problem at all, Jacob," the man said, reading his name from the app. Tell your parents I said hello. I haven't seen them in ages. How are they?" The man claimed he knew Jacob's grandparents and used to babysit his mother when she was a little girl. This detail put Jacob at ease, and he thought it was a neat coincidence. After thanking the man again for the generous tip, he said he should get going. But as he turned to leave, the man stopped him. "Hey, it's quite cold out tonight. Why don't you come in for a quick cup of hot chocolate? I just made a fresh pot." Jacob was a little hesitant, but the man seemed so genuinely kind, and he did claim to be a family friend. Plus, a warm drink sounded wonderful after a long day in the cold. A small part of him even wondered if he might get another tip, so he accepted the offer and went inside. The man told him to take a seat at the dining room table while he went to the kitchen to prepare the drinks. He kept up a friendly conversation from the other room. As he worked, his back was mostly turned, but Jacob caught a brief, suspicious movement. He saw the man discreetly uncap a small vial and pour a clear liquid into one of the mugs. Jacob's blood ran cold. He was almost certain he had just witnessed the man drugging his drink. He tried to remain calm and stall for time. When the man brought the two mugs to the table, he started asking Jacob why he wasn't drinking his hot chocolate yet. Thinking fast, Jacob clutched his stomach. "I'm so sorry, sir, but my stomach just started acting up," he said. "I also have hypoglycemia, so I really try to avoid sugar. It can make my blood sugar spike and sometimes even trigger a panic attack." The man's friendly demeanor vanished instantly. His face hardened and his eyes grew cold. "That's very rude," he said, his voice low and angry. "After I gave you $100 and invited you into my home, you refused my hospitality." He insisted Jacob drink it. Jacob, feeling trapped, apologized and said he would try to drink some. He lifted the cup to his lips, pretending to take a sip. As he set it down, the man was staring at him with a twisted, gut-wrenching smile, but when he saw the cup was still full, his expression changed to one of pure rage. He slammed his hand on the table, the sound echoing through the room. "It is not okay to lie to an adult," he snarled, standing up from his chair. He began to slowly walk around the table, his eyes locked on Jacob, his intentions terrifyingly clear. Jacob didn't wait another second. He shot out of his chair and bolted for the front door, running faster than he ever had in his life. He burst outside and sprinted to his car, speeding away before the man could even reach the porch. He was lucky he was fast enough to escape what could have been a fatal encounter. When he told his mother and they called the police, their report was met with indifference and was likely never followed up on, a common story when dealing with a man of such wealth and influence. For our final story, we head to a city notorious for its dangers. This driver's tale is a stark reminder of the risks people take just to make ends meet in a place where survival is a daily struggle. The narrator works for DoorDash in Flint, Michigan, a city he describes as one of the most dangerous in the United States. He does the work out of necessity to pay his bills, preferring the flexible hours to a second job. He tries to work only during the day, well aware that violent crime skyrockets after dark. The north side of Flint is the most dangerous part of the city, an area infamous for gang violence, drugs, and other illicit activities. There are parts of the north side where even the police are hesitant to go, and calls for help often go unanswered. It's a place where you keep your head down and mind your own business if you want to stay safe. This is exactly where an order took him one day. As he pulled up to the delivery address on Martin Luther King Avenue, he saw that the house appeared to be completely abandoned and boarded up. This was not unusual in Flint, but it was always a cause for concern due to the high number of squatters. The house right next door, however, was the opposite. There were several cars in the driveway and parked along the street. Loud music was blasting from inside, and two large pit bulls were chained up in the front yard. It was clearly some kind of party. The driver felt a knot of anxiety, but focused on just completing his job. He got out of his car and approached the abandoned house, looking for a way to leave the food. Suddenly, three men emerged from the party next door and walked towards him. "Hey, you got the DoorDash?" one of them asked, before snatching the food bag from his hand. A terrible feeling washed over the driver. He turned and started walking quickly back to his car, wanting to get away from them as fast as possible. He only made it a few steps before one of them struck him hard from behind, hitting him directly on the back of the head. Before he could even react or defend himself, more punches flew at his head and face from all directions. As he tried to turn and fight back, a final, powerful blow connected and everything went black. He was knocked out cold. He doesn't know how long he was unconscious. When he came to, he was lying on the ground in a daze, confused and disoriented. Slowly, the events came back to him. He realized they had robbed him. His phone, wallet, cash, debit cards, and even his watch were all gone. They had also taken his shoes. Panic set in when he realized his car keys were no longer in his pocket. Luckily, after a few frantic minutes of searching, he found them lying in the street near the curb. He scrambled to his car, his body aching, and drove away as fast as he could. As he was leaving, he glanced back and saw that the party next door was still going on, the music still blasting. To them, it was as if nothing had happened. They had brutally attacked and robbed him, and now they were continuing their party without a care in the world, confident there would be no consequences. He was lucky to be alive, and he knew it. It was a brutal lesson learned about the realities of working in such a dangerous place. He still does DoorDash to make a living, but he never accepts an order in the Flint area anymore. And just as in the last story, when he called the police to report the assault, he was told an officer would be sent out, but he is certain no one ever came.